We are following breaking news tonight on Action 2 News at 6. Brendan Dassey's conviction in the death of Teresa Halbach is overturned.
Stephen Avery's nephew made national headlines after the Netflix series Making a Murderer. We have full team coverage tonight with reaction and what lies ahead for Brendan Dassey.
From Wbay TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News at 6 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It is the breaking news we've been following all night out of Milwaukee. Brendan Dassey's murder conviction of Teresa Halbach has been overturned by a federal judge.
His story made national headlines after the Netflix series Making a Murderer premiered. Dassey was convicted of the 2005 murder of freelance photographer Teresa Halbach in Manitowoc County. His uncle Stephen Avery was also convicted in the murder. Avery is currently appealing his conviction. Our Claire Cayley starts our team coverage tonight to explain how the judge made this decision. Claire.
Well, Jeff and Cami, the judge was really looking at two things. Did Brendan Dassey have ineffective counsel, and should his confession have been allowed in court? The judge decided Dassey did not prove he had ineffective counsel, but he did determine Dassey's confession should not have been used at trial. In fact, the judge said, quote, "It is the conclusion of the court that this case represents the sort of extreme malfunction in the state criminal justice system," end quote. Court documents say investigators used leading questions when interrogating Dassey, which made it difficult for them to tell if he really knew the facts or was just agreeing with investigators. The judge believes investigators repeatedly claimed to already know what happened to Halbach and that Dassey had nothing to worry about. The decision states the repeated false promises made by investigators, along with Dassey's age, intellectual deficits, and lack of a supportive adult, led the judge to decide the conviction was involuntary.
A lot of people asking the question now, does Dassey go free?
We looked into that, and the court documents say that the state has an option to appeal the decision, or they have 90 days to retry the case.
What if that does not happen?
If that doesn't happen, Dassey will be released from prison.
All right. Thanks, Claire.
Claire, thank you. As this breaking story unfolds, we've started to get reaction from those involved. We were actually there when one of Stephen Avery's brothers learned about Dassey's overturned conviction. Emily Matesic joins us now live from Waupun to tell us that part of the story. Emily.
Yeah, Jeff, we caught up with Earl Avery, one of Stephen Avery's brothers, as he was leaving Waupun Correctional here in Waupun after visiting his brother Stephen. He says he didn't know about the reversal in the Dassey case until he came out of the prison and turned his cell phone on and had several messages about it. While the news comes as a surprise to Earl Avery, he says he is hopeful for what it means to his brother Stephen's case.
Does this give you any more hope?
Oh, sure. You know, he'll be out of there sooner or later. You know, like he says, the truth will always come out.
His brother was very upbeat during their visit today, and that Stephen can't talk about his appeal, but that Kathleen Zellner, Stephen Avery's appellate attorney, was here visiting with him this morning. Earl Avery also told us that he doesn't think Brendan Dassey will be retried because he believes that in the court of public opinion, the public is supportive of Brendan Dassey. But as we know, the court of public opinion in this case does not matter. It will be up to the state to decide whether or not to retry Brendan Dassey. For now, we're live in Waupun. Emily Matesic, Action 2 News.
Thank you, Emily. We're also hearing from county officials on Dassey's overturned conviction. Our George Rodas is in Manitowoc gathering reactions. George.
We have reached out to the county sheriff's department here in Manitowoc. We have not heard back from their office, but we did speak to the county executive here, Bob Ziegelbauer, who has spoken to us in the past about the Avery and Dassey cases. He says this announcement took him by surprise. He says he's not thrilled with any attention this brings on his city and his county after what they've already been through. Here's what he had to say.
I don't know what's next. I presume that the order will be appealed by the state justice department, but I don't know. It's still kind of new to me. I have a lot of concern for the family of the victim, and that's one thing we can't forget.
Teresa Halbach and her family on his mind tonight. We are still working to get more reactions from Manitowoc, and if we get them, we will bring them to you on air and online, that is, at WBAY.com. But for now, live in Manitowoc, George Rodas, Action 2 News.
Thank you, George. Well, the news of Brendan Dassey's overturned conviction leads many questioning what is next for both Dassey and Stephen Avery at this point. Michelle Clemens joins us live in the newsroom with what she found out today. Michelle.
Cammy, we've reached out to at least a dozen people related to the cases, including Brendan Dassey's lawyers, one of which is out of town, but says he's aware of the ruling. We hear from him soon. We also reached out to Stephen Avery's attorney, Kathleen Zellner. She says she was in Wisconsin visiting Avery today and says he is happy for Brendan. She says in a statement, quote, "We know when an unbiased court reviews all of the new evidence we have, Stephen will have his conviction overturned as well," end quote. Dean Strang, Avery's former attorney, also got back to us and says in a statement, quote, "We are thankful and proud that a federal court fulfilled its fundamental role for Brendan Dassey today. In doing so, this federal court served all Americans," end quote. The director of communications for the Wisconsin Department of Justice also responded, saying the department is reviewing the order and has no comment at this time. We also reached out to Dassey's former defense attorney, Len Kaczynski. As we told you moments ago, the judge today decided that Dassey did not have ineffective counsel. Kaczynski says he's relieved by today's ruling.
In the sense that there was an issue that I preserved for appeal before it was off the case, I was in a sense gratified because the fact that that was the basis for Magistrate Judge Duffin's decision. So that I did my job.
Now, reaction continues to pour into our newsroom tonight, and we'll be following it all and have the latest details tonight on Action 2 News at 10. Jeff?
A recap of the breaking news we've been following all afternoon. A federal judge in Milwaukee has overturned Brendan Dassey's murder conviction. A judge ordered Dassey be released from custody unless the state moves to retry him within 90 days of Friday's ruling. He will not be released until the appeals process is finished, though. Dassey was sentenced for the 2005 murder of freelance photographer Teresa Halbach in Manitowoc County. His uncle, Stephen Avery, also convicted in that murder.
And court documents say investigators used leading questions when interrogating Dassey, which made it difficult for them to tell if he really knew the facts or was agreeing with investigators. The decision also considered other factors like Dassey's age, intellectual deficits, and absence of a supportive adult. Those factors led a judge to determine that Dassey's confession was involuntary. We have full team coverage on this story. Look for updates on Action 2 News at 10 and online at WBAY.com.
From WBAY TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News at 10 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Arrested and charged for drunk driving, but walking away with just a slap on the wrist.
Those are the kind of tips Target 2 has been receiving in the last few months, asking Target 2 investigates if and how that could happen in Northeast Wisconsin. Our Sarah Thompson started digging through the records and uncovered what judges, prosecutors, and even defense attorneys describe as stunning.
If pictures say 1,000 words, these dash cam videos tell it all. Watch this woman trying to complete standard field sobriety tests.
1, 2, 3.
Falling to the side and having problems standing on one leg. She's arrested in Wapaka County for first offense OWI. Court records show her blood alcohol level at .196, more than twice the legal limit. Yet when her case goes through Wapaka County Court, that OWI no longer exists. It's amended to a fine for inattentive driving. Same with this woman, who falls during her tests. She too is arrested for first offense OWI. But in court, it turns into fines and tickets for improper parking and inattentive driving. Then there's this man, who has problems with his ABCs.
You want to start at A and go to Z? A, B, C, D, U, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Okay. I'm sorry, but all right, it's been 20 years.
He had a BAC of .17. His OWI first charge is dismissed, and he's charged with endangering safety with use of a dangerous weapon. But it's not just first-time offenses. This man is stopped after a deputy says he swerved over the yellow line. Dashcam shows him swaying and nearly falling.
If I was sober, I could not walk this line.
He's arrested for third offense OWI. His blood alcohol level, a .16. But his end result after court, a misdemeanor charge of negligent operation of a motor vehicle and no record of an OWI. These are some of the 30 cases where Target 2 found drunk driving charges being reduced or completely dismissed, all in Wapaka County between 2010 and 2015. We started digging into this after emails and phone calls to Target 2 over the last 6 months asking if this could really happen. We filed open records requests for OWI arrest records from the State Hygiene Lab, one of the labs that tests blood in drunk driving cases. We searched online court records for the more than 500 names we received and quickly began finding the amended charges. We filed more requests for hundreds of pages of motions, amendments, and police reports in those cases. We found first, second, third, even a seventh offense OWI. There's also the man court records show in 7 years was arrested 3 separate times for OWI third offense. One of those came after hitting a parked beer delivery truck. All 3 times, his drunk driving charges were dismissed or reduced. The motion in one case saying the court is not convinced the defendant's ability was impaired. That time, his blood registered an alcohol content of .256. Target 2 found other motions written by the Wapaka County District Attorney's Office saying despite the vigorous prosecution of drunk driving offenses, the state feels it will not be able to prove to a jury the defendant was operating a motor vehicle under the influence. So we asked experts, including a former Brown County prosecutor and a standard field sobriety test instructor and police officer, to review the motions and police reports.
I conclude from my experience as a standard field sobriety instructor, a criminal justice instructor, and even as an expert witness in OWI cases, and as a practitioner, that the officers did everything that they were supposed to do consistent with their training.
So why were the charges reduced? Target 2 asked judges, both presiding and retired, current and former prosecutors, defense attorneys, and law enforcement if reducing charges is common. Of the 24 people we talked to, not one of them said this is a common practice. They used words like stunning, shocking, and embarrassing. The judges adding they've never signed off on one or can only recall it happening 1 or 2 times in their roughly 30 years on the bench. But Wisconsin law does allow it. A prosecutor can ask a judge in a written motion to amend or dismiss, but it can only be approved if the court finds it's consistent with the public's interest in deterring drunk driving. We asked Wapaka County District Attorney John Snyder why he would agree to the amendments in some of the specific cases we found, like that 7th offense one. He responded, quote, "I don't know." He would only talk to us by phone and declined an on-camera interview. We also asked him if 30 cases is a lot. Snyder said, considering how many people are arrested for drunk driving, he doesn't view it, quote, as a large number. So Target 2 checked other counties, submitting an open records request for Calumet County, closest in size to Wapaka. We didn't find a single OWI charge amended there in the 3 years of data we received. Brown County tells us its prosecutors refuse to amend drunk driving cases and can recall very few in rare exceptions where the facts warranted it. Dorr and Portage counties said the same thing. The defense attorney that handled many of these amended cases told Target 2 he's aggressive and looks for significant issues with the evidence or traffic stop, adding the compromise is not entered into lightly and it's up to a judge to make the final decision. The experts we spoke with say, in the eyes of public perception, it's hard to dismiss or amend OWI charges.
We need to create an environment that people believe if they drink and drive drunk, that they will be arrested. And this clearly sends a message to the contrary.
2 Wapaka County judges tell Target 2 they have to rely on the, quote, good faith of what prosecutors present to them in court, since judges are not allowed to be part of any negotiations between attorneys and prosecutors. One judge also saying he doesn't recall denying requests because he relies on the expertise of prosecutors. Wapaka County District Attorney John Snyder tells Target 2 he is ultimately responsible for all the cases going through his office and, quote, must have approved these amendments. We asked the Department of Justice for comment as well, but have not heard back. The officers making these arrests say they too are fed up. We also took our findings to one of the nation's largest anti-drunk driving advocacy groups. What happened when they saw the results tomorrow night.
And for more information on this extensive Target 2 investigation, head to WBAY.com.
Much more to come.
From WBAY TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News at 10 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. A little over an hour ago, Republican nominee for President Donald Trump finished a rally in Waukesha.
Officials say the Waukesha County Expo Center was packed to capacity for the event, and some supporters even had to be turned away. Jason Zimmerman was at the rally tonight. He joins us live to tell us more. Jason.
Cami, Trump hammered away on a number of points he made in that big debate just 2 nights ago. He did so before a capacity crowd, telling supporters here he's liking his chances of winning Wisconsin, and he hopes to make up even more ground with this visit tonight.
I'm going to lower your taxes massively.
During a 40-minute speech, Donald Trump blasted his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton on a countless number of issues, but especially for ties to Wall Street, special interest groups, and big money donors.
These special interests totally control Hillary Clinton. She's their chosen representative. You can disregard everything she says and just remember that phrase, follow the money. She's there for only one reason, to protect her donors and collect money.
Besides his pledge to support police by being the law and order candidate, Trump also said, unlike Clinton, he would enforce existing immigration laws and renegotiate trade deals that haven't favored American workers.
She's a globalist who has made a career of taking jobs from our country and giving them to other countries. I am not running to be president of the world. I'm running to be president of the United States.
The most recent Marquette poll shows Trump trailing Clinton by just 3 points in Wisconsin. To win, he's going to need the help of Milwaukee's suburban voters, which so far he has struggled to connect with. Reporting live in Waukesha, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.
Jason Zimmerman was at Clinton's town hall in Green Bay tonight, where she mainly focused her attacks on Republicans.
I am very happy to be back in Green Bay.
Appearing for the first time in Northeast Wisconsin since launching her presidential campaign, Hillary Clinton spoke to a huge crowd of supporters at the Riverside Ballroom in a town hall event touting her ability to improve the economy, grow jobs, and support middle-class families.
I have a plan. I'm not just up here saying, let's bash the bad guys. I want to bash the bad guys as much as anybody else. But after you get done bashing the bad guys, how are you going to give people good jobs with rising incomes? I'm the only candidate who's actually laid out a plan to do just that.
With 86 delegates up for grabs, Wisconsin is a chance for Clinton to reverse the momentum of her Democratic rival, who recently won a number of western states. She told supporters they should think about who's more electable in the general election.
I think it's important when you go to vote on Tuesday to think about what the real prize here is, my friends. The real prize is winning in November by beating the Republicans, whoever they nominate at the end.
For voters, the visit was a chance to see her up close.
I thought it went really well. It's good to get her here in town to speak to people in Green Bay and northern Wisconsin. They tend to stick mostly to Madison or Milwaukee, and it's good to get the candidates up north.
She's a great person. She's got a great background and a lot of history, and I think she'll do very well if everybody gets out and votes.
8 years ago, Hillary Clinton lost to President Barack Obama by 10 points here in Wisconsin. It's a margin she hopes to avoid next week against Senator Bernie Sanders. Reporting in Green Bay, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.
From WBAY TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News at 5 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Northeast Wisconsin once again in the focus of the presidential political world with the approaching state primary next Tuesday, April 5th.
And right now, as you see, Senator Bernie Sanders, a Democrat, giving a speech in Sheboygan. Let's listen in.
But it is not only about how we raise money. That is enormously important. It is about foreign policy. All of you know the most important foreign policy debate in the modern history of this country took place in 2002. George Bush, President Bush, Vice President Cheney, all of the rest of the Bush administration told us why we had to go to war in Iraq. I listened very carefully to what they had to say. I did not believe them. I voted against the war in Iraq.
You are listening to Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders speaking live this afternoon in Sheboygan. Meantime, Senator Sanders is also heading to the Crest Center at UW Green Bay to deliver a speech. Jason Zimmerman is there live, where supporters are starting to move inside right now. Jason.
Cami, the doors have been open for about an hour now. Right behind me, you can see many of those supporters vying for a spot close to the stage, which is where Senator Sanders will speak later on tonight. Now, many of these people stood in long lines to get in. A lot of people are still waiting in line to get through security. The event itself starts at 7 tonight. This is the second visit Senator Sanders has made to Northeast Wisconsin this week. On Tuesday, he was in Appleton, where he spoke at the Performing Arts Center. Obviously, this is a very critical state for the senator's campaign. On Wednesday, the latest Marquette University Law School poll was released, showing Senator Sanders with a slight lead, 49 to 45% over Hillary Clinton. 5% remain undecided. As for supporters, we spoke to a few people coming in about their excitement level.
I'm here because it's about time somebody opened their mouth and started the movement, and that's what Bernie's doing. And as long as this train rides, buddy, I'm all on it, and so's everybody else in these lines, I bet, right?
I knew that this momentum was going to come. I knew it was going to be a little bit of struggle in the South, but, you know, with the West coming in, Wisconsin's definitely holding true to that. I am just amped up every single day, and I'll definitely be getting on those phone bakes and canvassing, so go Bernie!
Tonight's event won't be the last for Senator Sanders in Wisconsin. He has events this weekend in Eau Claire, Milwaukee, and Madison. Plus, he's back in Green Bay for a final event on Monday at the KI Convention Center. Reporting live in Green Bay, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.
A second man is now considered a person of interest in the disappearance and possible murder of Amber Wbay. As we first told you on Action 2 News at 5, we've uncovered new information from recently unsealed court records. Amber Wbay disappeared in September of 1998. This spring, Target 2 Investigates discovered newly unsealed court documents classifying the UW-GB student's case as a homicide and identifying the father of her unborn child, Matthew Schneider, as the main person of interest. It pointed to her pregnancy unwanted by Schneider as a possible motive for murder. Now, as Sarah Thompson found out, Schneider's close friend is also considered a person of interest.
These new details come from this 12-page subpoena seeking cell phone records for Nick Pettit. Green Bay police asked for the records in 2014 when new detectives were assigned to the case. They were only recently unsealed.
So we just wanted to know if any of those people had still been in contact with each other.
Investigators labeled Nick Pettit and Matthew Schneider as close friends, saying Pettit was his constant companion.
If Matt confided in anyone, it may have been him.
We attempted to reach Pettit for comment, but haven't heard back. While Green Bay police detectives still consider Matthew Schneider their main person of interest, they say there are details from Pettit surrounding Amber's disappearance that just don't add up. According to the court records, Pettit's then-girlfriend told investigators she may have seen Amber Wbay in her car in Wausau. But police are still trying to figure out if information about Amber's missing car had even been made public by the time that statement was made. In the subpoena, detectives also raised questions about alibis, saying Schneider told his friend he'd seen a movie and had dinner by himself after work, September 23rd. That's the day Amber's family last heard from her. In a John Doe hearing, Pettit said he couldn't remember what he did that night, but was most likely not home. Police continue to look for that one clue that will break their case.
We're still plugging along. We continue to get some information here and there.
Amber's family hopes yet another name and new details being released will help someone remember something.
Maybe even, put two and two together, like, okay, hey, these two are connected. And hey, I remember, is something, just, with the two of them, maybe that, people didn't realize that they were connected. And then all of a sudden, hey, okay, well, this is something.
Sarah Thompson, Action 2 News, Green Bay.
From Wbay TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News at 10 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is not a new issue for Kewaunee County residents, but the most recent rainfall is leaving one Kewaunee County family with some tainted water.
Not only is it not drinkable, but as you can see behind us, you wouldn't want to wash your dishes or shower in that water. Brittany Schmidt shows us what the family is dealing with and what officials are trying to do about it.
I wouldn't trade it. I mean, I'm not a city person.
Rob and Erica Balza call this place home, located about a mile outside of Luxembourg.
I've lived here for the last 4 years. My husband's lived here for the last 23.
So they say it's not unusual to run into water quality issues once in a while. In fact, they always have bottled water on hand. Erica and Rob's refrigerator is about 5 or 6 years old, but if you look at the water and ice tray, it's in pristine condition because they've never actually used it because of what they know is in the water.
In spring and fall, sometimes the water would get a little brown tinge to it. It wouldn't smell. It was more like a sandy color.
Normally we change water filters in the basement and then just let the water run through.
But this time, they say there's just no letting the water run through.
Very disgusting.
Just not a good situation.
When Erica and Rob went to brush their teeth Wednesday night before bed, they noticed their water was brown.
And so we ran it and it continued to be brown and started to smell. And then flushed the toilet and it was completely brown. My husband ran the shower to warm up the water and it completely smelled like manure.
The Balza's well has been contaminated. The DNR and land conservationists collected samples and sent them in for virus, bacteria, and E. coli testing.
Once those results are given to us, then we can start working with the homeowner to identify how to fix it.
They are also looking into recent manure applications at nearby farms. The chair of the Kewaunee County Groundwater Task Force saw the video.
Oh my heavens.
And says unfortunately this has happened before, but it is being addressed.
You have to trust that we are well aware of these issues and we're working on them. We are working with the EPA. We're working with the DNR. Our county office is working very hard on these issues.
For now, the Balzas have to refrain from using their tap water.
Can't do laundry, can't do dishes, can't shower.
But they are hoping for some answers sooner rather than later.
Part of living in the country, and it's not like they're dumping it straight into my well, but it's obviously getting there.
In Luxembourg, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.
From WBAY TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News at 5:30 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, the Green Bay Packers will take on the Indianapolis Colts in the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. The preseason game kicking off the Packers' NFL season follows Brett Favre's enshrinement into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Sports director Chris Roth is there and joins us live with a preview. Chris.
All right, thanks very much, Emily. We have some breaking news here as things are developing rather rapidly inside Tom Benson Stadium here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You said the Packers begin the preseason tonight against the Colts. That may actually not be the case. There is serious concerns here over the condition of the field at Tom Benson Stadium. This is video our photojournalist Matt Hippa shot just about 15 minutes ago as workers here tried to get this field in condition. Here's the way we understand the problem. Workers, once they finally cleared everything out from last night's induction ceremony, were unable to paint the logos on the field until mid-afternoon today. And in an attempt to get that paint to dry quickly, heaters were turned on to the paint, which in turn melted the plastic surface of this field turf. That green stuff you see in the field turf is actually plastic. So it melted. It's very, very hard right now, so much so that many players and team officials told me you could not get a cleat to go into those portions of the field. So obviously that is not safe. Players are extremely concerned. There have been meetings taking place on the field as recently as 10 minutes ago between the Hall of Fame president David Baker, Colts GM Ryan Grigson, Packers GM Ted Thompson, head coach Mike McCarthy, vice president Russ Ball, all talking about whether or not this game will actually be played here tonight because of these dangerous field conditions, at least as far as both teams are concerned. I have had players talking to them while they were warming up tell me they don't think this game is going to be played. Now, they don't get to make that decision, but the NFLPA, the NFL are all involved in these discussions. And about 7 minutes ago, both teams were told to clear the playing surface and go to their locker rooms. Hall of Fame President David Baker was going to address the Packers first and then go into the Colts locker room and address the Colts. Now, what he is saying to those teams, we obviously don't know. Official word's going to have to come from the NFL on this decision. But as of right now, Emily, as we come back out here live, this game is in serious jeopardy because of what both teams deem to be unsafe playing conditions on this surface. As news becomes available here, and if a decision is made, we'll certainly get it to you as soon as we can. Right now, reporting from Canton, Ohio, Chris Roth, Action 2 Sports.
Thanks, Chris. I know you'll keep track of what's going on out there.
At this hour, at this minute, breaking news on the Hall of Fame game. The Packers and Colts may not take place tonight. A report by Jason Lockenfora says the game will not take place. For the latest, let's head out live to Canton and Chris Roth. Chris?
Dedication and commitment to excellence. All right, thanks very much, Dave. And if you look over my left shoulder, down there, that group of people, those are reporters, and they are waiting right outside the tunnels that go to both the Packers, which is the door to the left, or the opening to the left, and then the Colts, which is the one on the right. Those go to the team locker rooms. And in there, over the last 15 or 20 minutes or so, Hall of Fame President David Baker was meeting with the teams. He met with the Packers first, and then the Colts. And I'm assuming that all those reporters have been told that Mr. Baker or someone else is going to come out and address these reports that this game has, in fact, been canceled due to poor field conditions. Now, it was about 25 minutes ago, maybe about 10 minutes, about 5:20 p.m., that the teams were told to clear the field. And this was after several discussions and long discussions out at midfield between the Hall of Fame, the Players Association, the league, and representatives of both teams talking about the field conditions. Now, here's what we know about the field conditions, or at least what we've been told, not confirmed by any of the staff here that worked on the field, but have been told that what happened here today was because it took so long to clear this field from last night's induction ceremony, the painters on the field, in other words, painting the logo at midfield and the end zones, they could not get started until around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So in an effort to make sure that paint dried, heaters were turned on.
The heaters were turned onto the field to try to make that paint dry in a hurry. It apparently melted the field, and that surface became a very hard plastic surface. Cleats could not go into the surface, so obviously that part of the field would be an unsafe playing condition, and therefore we are in the situation we are now, where we don't know if this Hall of Fame game will take place, but there has been a report by CBS Sports' Jason Lockenfora that the game is off.
Action 2 News at 10 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We start with breaking news tonight that we first brought you at 5:30 live from Canton, Ohio, where the Packers-Colts Hall of Fame preseason game was canceled due to hardened turf. Sports director Chris Roth has been gathering information all night on exactly what happened. He joins us live from Canton. Chris?
Hi, Emily. This was to be the Packers' 5th appearance here in the Hall of Fame game, and it probably will be their last. This is the 3rd time that they have either not finished or even started a game here. Back in 1969 and then again in 1980 and then in 2003, the game was canceled early because of weather problems. Tonight it was canceled before it even began because of unplayable field conditions. It was clear when players started warming up more than 2 hours before the game that there was a problem, and that problem was the painted logos at midfield and in the end zone. In an effort to dry the paint that was applied just around 1 o'clock today, late due to the cleanup of last night's induction ceremony, the artificial field turf melted with the paint, causing the field to be too hard in those areas for cleats to even penetrate. Both teams were in lockstep agreement that the conditions were too dangerous for players. The League and Players Association were involved along with Hall of Fame officials, and after roughly an hour of discussions, the decision to call the game was made.
In the end, we want to err on the side of personal safety. So, like I said, hard decision financially, hard decision public relations-wise, but a easy decision ethically, I think.
It's again, obviously a lot of conversation. And at the end of the day, you have to make a decision, and the decision was made for player safety. So, I mean, it's not how you got there or why you got there. It was the right decision, and like I said, I give David Baker a lot of credit for doing the right thing.
We didn't pay to sit and watch a replay of the Tim McGraw concert from Friday night.
This was like a bucket list, like highlight of my life thing. Like, I am so disappointed right now. So disappointed.
Most disappointed for our fans. Obviously turned out in great numbers. They've been here all weekend. Saw some of the estimates, you probably did too. 80 to 90% of the people here were Packer fans. So really feel bad for them.
Brett, were you able to step on the middle of the field at all?
I did.
Did it feel like AstroTurf kind of to you at all?
Let me tell you, I've played on worse, put it that way.
Okay.
All right, you are looking at the logo there at midfield where the majority of the problems took place. Now, interesting thing about this turf, and it's brand new for this stadium. Tom Benson, whom the stadium is named after, the New Orleans Saints owner, gave this turf to the Hall of Fame to use for this game, and this would be the first event on this field. It had been used 5 times in the Superdome, and Colts owner Jim Irsay told us after all this transpired that this field was deemed just fine before they started to paint it. Now, how will this cancellation affect the Packers' preps for the upcoming season? Obviously, one less preseason game. We'll hear from Mike McCarthy on that coming up on Sunday Sports Night. Emily?
We still have installation, practice number 8 that we'll hit Tuesday night, and then we'll shift gears into Cleveland. And once we get past Cleveland, we'll be more into an in-season schedule. So it'll be a minor adjustment, but we'll just go with it.
I wasn't going to play tonight, but it's disappointing because we had some young players who would have got opportunity. Joe Callahan from Wesley College was going to start a quarterback for us. It would have been a great opportunity for him to get some snaps in front of a national audience, but I think they made the right decision.
The ceremony or the game be moved to a different venue rather than having 2 events of this magnitude on the same surface in less than 24 hours?
Mark, I think that's a question, for a later time. But I think the league and the Hall of Fame, and as owners and myself and others from the Packer organization, when we get together at league meetings, I think we need to look at some of those issues.
All right, Mark Murphy talking about the fact that this stadium hosted a concert on Friday night. The field was completely covered for that with the big stage behind me here. And then, of course, last night's induction ceremony. And that led to the problem today, Dave, as we talked about earlier. It took them so long to clear everything off the surface here. They got a late start on painting. We were told because of that they tried to dry the paint, which in turn melted the surface down there. You can see that behind me where the logo is at midfield. And that led to that hard playing surface that they just could not even get cleats into, deemed too dangerous for the players here to play tonight. So the decision to cancel the game. So a reboot for the Packers will come on Friday night. That will be their preseason opener